Life flows on the river of purpose. We're all carried by the uncertainty of its own unfolding. Chasing purpose is all about nurturing faith, setting intentions, pursuing aspirations, all while living boldly. Chasing Purpose aims to inspire, uplift, and empower people through real-life stories. Stories that encapsulate life's memorable moments and enduring life lessons. Chasing Purpose with host Cynthia Shea.
Our beliefs shape our lives, and in order to navigate our way, we must be open and honest with ourselves while on our purpose journey. Truth discussions are hard, but they are critical to our growth. Take a look at your reflection in the mirror. See if you recognize the person looking back at you, and nurture and love that person. On today's show, we look at our doubts and disbeliefs and how we can disregard these hindrances in order to fulfill our purpose. Welcome to Chasing Purpose, a space where we nurture faith, pursue aspirations, and set intentions, all while living boldly. Speaking of living boldly, this week our purpose pull comes from one of the boldest I've ever met, Miss Tanuke Doyley. She shared some amazing gems with us during our last episode. Here is our purpose pull.
Life is a journey, and you have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And where you start doesn't necessarily dictate where you'll end up.
Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Chasing Purpose with Cynthia Shea Clark. All our episodes are right there. I've got a dream guest today. When I get in the journals, and a pen, glass of wine, coconut water, whatever I need. Well, it's 10 o'clock in the morning, or 9 o'clock. So whatever you guys want to drink, get it. We are about to have our lives handed to us, right? Biblically speaking. Pastor Sara, Christian counselor, speaker, and author. Good to have you back home in Jamaica, Pastor Sara. How are you?
Better than ever, living my best life.
Look here now. I tell y'all, get ready. Have your journals ready. I read where you said you're a firm believer that adversity can be used as a catapult to greatness, and that you're rallying others to stay the course, increase our commitments, and serve where we are planted. How so?
Because adversity introduces you to a you that you often pass by. A more often resilient, stronger, more intelligent, more witty person that you would have never met had you not gone through adverse situations. It's just like any kind of bodybuilder developing muscles. Unless there's pressure, unless there's strain, unless there's resistance, you will not get stronger. And so adversity, you have to see it as a friend and not an enemy. And when you see it as an enemy, you're going to attract it from a negative standpoint versus seeing the opportunity that's within every adverse situation. There's always opportunity in adversity.
Is always opportunity in adversity.
Yeah.
When did you meet that person?
Adversity? I met her probably around 6, I would think would be the biggest time, because my parents divorced when I was 6. So my first sexual molestation, assault type of thing happened around between 6 to 7 as well. So there were different things going on at the same time. My mom was on drugs. I was not aware that she was on drugs at that time, but I was having the effects of her being on drugs. So up, down, aggressive, not aggressive, one extreme to the next extreme. So I had to adapt quickly. I had to take what was given to me and find a way around it, find joy in spite of it, find courage, find confidence. I used to run away from my mom's house to my dad, from Cherry Gardens all the way to New Kingston at 7 or 8 years old. He can testify to that. So there was a certain resilience that began to be built inside of me, because adversity comes to challenge who you are. And you have to remember that you are not your adverse situation, but you are greater than that. So I think at 6 years old, I began to somehow draw from what I had seen that was positive in our lives and began to use that as fuel versus what was negative. So I was in negative situations, I was running in situations, but at the same time, I did have parents that would affirm me or believe in me or tell me I was great or tell me I was smart. My mom taught me to read, and I skipped like a couple grades. So there were things that I knew I could hold on to, and there were things that I was running from. But I think at 6 years old, having to go through trauma like that, you find a way. You're going to either just continue going into that, or you're faced with a choice. Even as young as it is, you may not be conscious of the choice, because it may seem normal to you. But at first, trauma is abnormal. Until you begin to accept it as a state, then you will begin to perpetuate it by itself. You don't even need any help. But before that, you have a choice. And I chose to fight it.
All right. Make sure y'all are journaling, because so much I just said I want to unpack. But
let's unpack it. It's Christmas.
During one of your most recent posts, you stated that faith is unconventional.
Yes.
Release yourself from the restraints of conformity and choose progress over perfection. Major gem. How important it is for us to choose progress over perfection, especially in today's world?
Listen here, it is the absolute best, because here's the thing when it comes to understanding God. I'm not the authority on God. I can only tell you the God I know, not the God you know, but the God I know. And the God I know is unconditional. Now, unconditional love doesn't mean unconditional acceptance of behavior, but it does. Unconditional love is a safe place, a love you can fail in and a love you can fall in. And too often, we present a perfection and a perfectionistic God to people. And so they're afraid to come to him. Well, that's a conditional, transactional relationship. And that's a lot of times, you do this, then God will do this. You do that, then God will do that. No, he said, I will never leave you nor forsake you.
Yeah.
He said, even when you're unfaithful, I'm faithful, for I won't deny myself. He said, have I not said it? Will I not do it? For God is not man that he should lie, neither is the Son of Man that he should repent. So why do we put human responsibilities, human responses on God, and then we put that out into the public and make it look as if God is judging every single thing? So no, as people, we look for perfection. I'm getting there. And you live in this very stress space of not wanting to fail God, that you actually get stuck and not make any progress at all. Because you're afraid to go forward. Where's God? God, can I do it? God, can I eat these banana chips? God, should I put on these pants today? God. And God is saying, but I am in you. So where are you waiting on me? I'm already in you. Where are you waiting to? Where are you heading to? We talk as if he's there. Somewhere that we have to get to. When you get to the space in God, God is in me.
Yes.
I'm already in that space.
Yep.
You know, and so I think when we talk about progress, we do not celebrate the small progresses. You know, it says it's first the blade, then the ear, then the full ear of corn. So even God was saying, glory by glory, little by little, you shall overtake your enemies. God is into the little stuff. And a lot of times we're looking for the big, magnificent miracles. Boy, I don't see. But sometimes the miracle is in the mundane, and the miracle is in the minutiae. And a lot of times we just have to realize he's not looking for perfection. We're already perfect. Listen, if you're born again and the blood of Jesus Christ has cleansed you from all your sins, and you've confessed your sins before God, and you are now hooked up with Jesus, how much more perfect can you be? So what are we striving for? We're striving for something we already have. So then we spend our energies on that versus making progress. And the biggest testimony is not sometimes where you come from, but is, did you get to where you were supposed to go? And often we don't get to where we're supposed to go because we're stuck on, can we, will we, should we, is it? We have all these measurements. And we have our own measurements and the measurements of others, and we live a very measured life, when the faith life is a life of abundance and a life of progress.
The faith life is a life of abundance. And you talked about being stuck. How does one move from stuck to progression?
I think, again, this is, like Paul said, I, Paul, and not the Lord speaketh. Okay, so I think from stuck is when you rehearse, regurgitate, and continue to repeat what was yesterday. So you carry yesterday in today. That's stuck. So if you felt that you made a stupid choice and you don't see that today's a new day, and you decide to use the same 24 hours today to repeat yesterday, then that's why you're stuck. Versus going, it's a new 24 hours.
Let me guess.
I have to choose by an act of my will. Okay, but oh boy, they say, what the name of the book? John. No, not John. Thomas. Thomas. Doubting Thomas, right? Oh, Doubting Thomas. Oh, Doubting Thomas. He's so bad. Jesus didn't kick him out of the group.
No.
He didn't make him. I now unite you as an apostle. What did Thomas say? Unless I see him and see his hands, I choose by my will. I will not believe. So believing is a will. It's not a feeling.
Believing is a will.
Yeah, it's an act of your will. So you can choose an act of your will to make progress or not, to stay stuck or not. It's a willful decision. So you have to choose. And what did Jesus do? Jesus met him where he was.
Yeah.
So I think that we make it very much more difficult than it needs to be. If you want to get unstuck, change the narrative. Replay the tape. It's like this, Netflix. Everybody likes Netflix. Not everybody should be Netflixing and chilling. I'm just saying, but the Netflix part. Let's stick with the Netflix. Okay. You go to Netflix, and I watch Chinese shows. I like to watch Chinese shows. I don't know, ni hao ma, hey, you know. And when I watch Chinese shows, the more Chinese shows I watch, then you're going to see under my profile, when it says mom, because it says number one mom on my profile, then all of a sudden it's going to say suggested for number one mom, little Chinese shows. Continue watching for mom, little Chinese shows. Netflix originals, Chinese shows. The more input I put into Netflix, the algorithm begins to conform and bring up things to continue to feed my appetite of that. So if I want to stay stuck in Chinese show land, I will listen to the algorithm and keep picking that. However, by an act of my will, my son and I have been watching documentaries every week. So now we're on the Obama documentary. We're on episode 4. By now, Netflix is picking up a different thing, and it's now showing me for number one mom, Chinese shows and documentaries. The more documentaries I pick, the less Chinese shows are going to be there. So it's by an act of your will my will, I can become unstuck.
Pastor Sara, have you ever doubted yourself on your journey?
Yes, I have doubted. I would say yes. I was thinking of when have I not doubted? Okay, so I have a lot of confidence in God, and I have a lot of confidence in my ability, but I don't always have a lot of confidence that I will choose necessarily the right way. Sometimes I think it depends on how personal a thing is to me. So the closer it is to me, if I feel like there's a lot of investment in there, if there's a lot of meaning to there, I can get more anxious over it. But I have found, you know, the book of Hebrews says, you know, Noah moved with fear when he built the ark. And sometimes we want to look at fear as the opposite of faith. But sometimes fear is right in the middle of faith. And we don't hear that doctrine, so poor us. When we're struggling in our mind and our heart, and they're disconnected because our mind is going, how am I going to do this? I don't have the resources. When I'm going to do that, those are natural thoughts. Jesus himself was dealing with that. And he came out and fussed at the disciples and said, you couldn't even wait with me. I needed you to kick it with me for for an hour, a half a day, whatever it was. And you just failed me. And we look at it as, you know, well, look at the disciples. No, Jesus was struggling. Jesus was fighting depression.
Never look at it like that.
Jesus was fighting anxiety. Jesus said, I don't want to do this. Okay, I want something else. Give me something. Look at Elijah. Elijah said, I want to die. When he ran away from Jezebel, you know, he suffered with depression. He suffered with suicidal thoughts. But we don't talk about that. So we as Christians and believers, when we're struggling with those things and those kinds of doubts, but what did he do? He moved and got up in spite of his feelings of suicide. He moved in spite of his feelings of depression. Even though he was let down by his 3 closest friends, Jesus was like, man, I got to still do this. And faith sometimes carries a little bit of that suffering with you, but it doesn't mean that you don't have faith because you're struggling. It doesn't mean that you don't have faith because you're doubting. It just means your mind is trying to catch up to where your heart is.
Your mind is trying to catch up where your heart is. How does Pastor Sara move away from self-doubt?
I put a time limit on it. Yeah, I have 2 hours. There's a 2-hour maximum on feeling sorry for myself, crying till my eyes, because that's about when my head starts hurting, is after 2 hours. Yes, I've timed it. Yes, and so I cry in the mirror. I do all of that. I say all the things. If it wasn't me, I served you, Jesus. Look at all the things that I've done. I could have been an actress on Broadway. But here I am in the trenches. You know, I do all of that drama. And I cry, but I have a 2-hour limit. And then when that clock go off, I go, okay, now I got to make up that 2 hours. So I'm going to have to stay up an extra 2 hours because I wasted 2 hours crying because it did nothing but gave me a headache, right? But I needed it. And it's okay that I needed it. I'm not infallible. I'm fallible. So I needed it for a moment. I needed to whine for a moment. I needed to just, you know, get myself together for a moment. And I do that until I may have to do that for 5 days straight for 2 hours. But it does not get my whole day.
And
because if it gets my whole day, it's going to get my whole next day,
Yeah.
my whole next day.
Yeah. It's important to identify and move forward.
Yeah.
In an article online, you described your growing up years as a chaotic adventure. Why was
Absolutely. It was chaotic because I grew up in but we weren't believers. So my mom is Chinese Jamaican, right? And Catholic. Yeah, at the same time, we're doing the I Ching and moon cakes and Chinese Benevolent Center. But she was Catholic, but she's also Chinese. So, we're doing dragon dance and stuff. And so, mahjong. So, hello. So we have that going on. And then, I have Master Tom, Mr. Tommy Cowan over here. And he is Haile Selassie, ever living, ever faithful, ever sure, conquering land of the tribe of Judah. And so we have that. And we are walking down the stairs, and we get to see the Haile Selassie picture before we leave, with the Star of David and red, gold, and green in our house. So the ganja plant in the back. That was fun. And we took family pictures with spliffs in our mouth at 5 and 6 and 7. I have those pictures. Those are real. So, on the one hand, if we were in America, Child Protective Services would have snatched my behind and taken me somewhere else. But we weren't. We were here, right here in Jamaica. So we just continued to grow, pierce, and weed. And then, so that was one thing. Then, he's in music. So everything that comes with music, meaning, I think a lot of excitement comes with music. We did a lot of concerts. We got to stay up late in studios. We get to, people greet you at the airport, and sometimes they even look at your bags. I mean, you get perks too. Yeah. But then they're absent, and then, like I said, my mom was on drugs for a long time, struggling with that on and off, and so she would be missing, meaning from my life, not necessarily missing from people she knew, but missing from us. Or she'd be back, and then, and then we had different moms, so my dad just decided, I guess he wanted to keep having babies. And so we had 4 moms, and we all get along. So we were not Mormon or Latter-day Saints. And it just depends on where you are and what I understand. There's a different split for each one. I studied them all. So anyone hearing, depends on where you are, I understand. But I'm saying to you, we had 4 different moms, all got along, 7 children. So it was chaotic in a way, but it was adventurous too, because we had something unique that I didn't really see reflected in a lot of families, which was just, travel, global mindset, service of people. Both my parents, my mom and my dad, were givers. Even if we didn't have a lot, they would always give. They would always serve, giving back to the communities, honoring parents, always visiting grandparents. There's a lot of fun stuff in that too, but there's a lot of hard stuff. So I think it was chaotic because it didn't seem normal. I'd go up everybody else's house, and nobody I knew lived like how I lived. I mean, their parents were at home.
How did that upbringing shape your now life, your adulthood?
I look back at it, and as hard as it was in some spaces, I loved it because I am comfortable in every environment. So if I'm in a very socially stush environment, it don't matter. I used to live in Trench Town, so it don't matter. It don't bother me. Wherever I am, I don't have to adapt myself to that environment and change who I am to please them, because I don't need their approval. Because, people are going to persecute you no matter what, right? But persecution is only effective to the degree you need approval from those persecuting you. So seeing that I was able to be on the lowest of the lowest and the highest of the highest, I've already lived through that kind of persecution and had to find your identity outside of your circumstances. So no one can hold me hostage to their opinions. And I don't have to adapt myself to them. I only have to adapt myself to God.
I only have to adapt myself to God.
Yes, audience of one.
Audience of another gem, audience of one, because we tend to want to be pleasing everyone and not really.
Well, I'm in a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. It's not a group relationship.
All right.
Okay, so I don't know.
Enough said. What role did faith play on your journey?
Oh, faith is the ultimate role because for me, when I ran away from home and then I got born again at Church on the Rock in Cassava Peace, the thing that brought me to God, which is still the thing that holds me with God, with my relationship, is that God is unconditional in His love.
Absolutely.
Had I not known and understood that God is unconditional, all the errors and mistakes and things or traumas that happened to me, I could get angry at God. God, why didn't you? You should have stopped this. You could have this. But God is unconditional in His love for Sarah. And nothing No life, no death, no angel, no demon, nothing above, nothing beneath, no tragedy, no blessing, nothing can separate me from him. Nothing. So my faith is what carries me through tough and good times, because he is unconditional, and no matter what, he is going to find a way to give an opportunity in that tragedy. He's going to find a way to glow me up and grow me up. He's going to find a way to honor me no matter what, because what? I'm not perfect, but I'm faithful.
Yeah.
I don't always do the right thing, but my heart is always right.
Yeah.
David was not perfect before him, but he said he had a perfect heart.
Absolutely.
Don't let me start preaching up in here.
No, we're here for the preaching.
Listen, Rahab was a hoe, but God used her.
Look here, no? She absolutely was.
Wasn't
He
she?
absolutely did.
Tamar set up her father-in-law. She was a prostitute, dressed up like a prostitute, took his ring and everything, and God voted in her favor.
Take us to church.
Okay, the daughters of Zelophehad changed the whole real estate industry. Just because what? God voted in their favor.
Yeah.
People you think that God wouldn't vote for, the very people God voted for. So you better be careful about who you're judging, and they don't wear this skirt, and they don't have this, and they don't have it together. Oh, they can't be my leadership. But God used a polytheistic, believing man to lead the faith. We believe in one God, and here it is. He used Abram, who was many gods. Would we have a many God person in our leadership group? Could we just? Okay, so I'm saying sometimes the God you think you know, you need to go experience the God of all creation for yourself. And that's why I'm saying, read the word for yourself.
Yeah.
Get into it for yourself, because God picks you not because of what you're qualified for, but because the blood qualifies you.
In 2018, you released your book, The Space Between How to Wait on God When You Would Rather Not.
Yes.
How you would wait on God when you'd rather not. What inspired the title and the book?
Because I don't like to wait.
Me either.
I don't like to wait on anybody, and I don't like to wait on God. So it's a universal hatred. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I'm not fake with my relationship with God. I don't front with God. I don't go in there, well, you know, hey, Lord, it's me standing in the need of prayer. It's Sarah, Lord.
It's Sarah?
No. I'm like, Lord, it's not going to work. It's not working right here. So I don't know if I'm going to serve you next week, because right now you're kind of looking hard up. I'm trying to talk to God. But I didn't like waiting on God, and I was trying to get pregnant at the time, and I had a daughter already, and year 1 went by, and I was, year 2 went by, and now we're in year 8. And I'm annoyed because I'm a pastor. I mean, I pray for people, and the blind get healed, and deaf ears open, and legs grow, and it should be really easy for me to lay hands on myself like the Macarena and just have some babies. Like what's wrong? Couldn't have no babies. And no more babies, and all my tubes, and they just weren't getting in readings. They got readings that I had eggs, but the eggs weren't coming out. I wasn't getting any cycles. So I didn't have cycles for years.
Whoa.
Yeah, now I'm like supposed to be menopausing, guys, and I am now like having full cycles. Like what? I mean, I try to get pregnant now, and then the day they're gone. But here I am, trying to get pregnant, couldn't do it, and I didn't want to wait on God, and I realized that the miracle I was looking for in my body had nothing to do with the miracle that was happening in my heart, because I did not know that I could get envious or jealous till this situation happened, and what I wanted was not coming to pass. And that's when I began to realize you have the capacity to be envious and jealous, because you're waiting beyond, and you see everybody getting pregnant, and you see everybody, and now you resenting Mother's Day and baby showers, and people say, well, fake it till you make it. No, I wasn't faking nothing. I wasn't going. I didn't want to go. And then I realized that God was like, supposing I'm trying to do a miracle in here, and you're looking at the miracle out there.
Wow. And
it's what I'm doing in you that sometimes impacts what's around you. And when I really just submitted to that and understood that, my kids are 10 years apart. Somehow, miraculously, I got pregnant. And in that book, I put the medical documentation in there where doctors, more than one doctor said, it is not going to happen. It is medically impossible for you to have a child. And yet, I have a 12-year-old right now. And that's just to the glory of God, but I think it was maybe the miracle that he was trying to do, and I began to be able to celebrate other people in their success and celebrate when their dreams were coming true for their babies and things like that. And once I began to realize that, wherever there's generosity, there will be abundance, and I was not being generous in celebrating. I thought, see, envy comes from a place of lack. And I saw somebody pregnant or somebody having a baby, it's as if God had a limit on babies. Like he only had 500 babies given out, and I didn't win the lottery. Oh my, look at all the things I did to deserve a baby.
Right.
And I was like, no, like I'm just confessing to you. I'm not saying it's the right thought.
Right.
But I did say to the Lord, in my secret, I said, I'll just be a crack hoe then, because that's the easy way you get pregnant. I'm not saying it was right, and I'm not saying it was honorable. I'm just saying that I said it. And I was like, he was like, and I said, a joke, take it back. Because, my mom was on crack, and I know how hard it was to break crack. So, I was first-hand witness to that. But I was like, Lord, this ain't right. I was upset, but I was in my feelings. And so I began to get jealous and envious because I thought God had a limited supply. And then I would vacillate between, oh my gosh, I used to do this, I used to do that, I've done this, I've done that, maybe he's punishing me. But that's not the truth. That is just when you're not getting your way, and you're not getting it in the time you want, then you need justification.
Wow.
And you need an answer. So you make up your own answers.
Wow.
But the minute I began to come from an abundant place and went, hold on, just because you got pregnant, God is in the neighborhood. Wait, hold on, my blessing is closer and closer. So if it's manifesting around me, it has to eventually manifest within me and for me. But once I got to that place, boom, got pregnant. But it took me a second. My head hard sometimes.
No, I don't hold away head hard sometimes. And it's in that. When did you see the shift? When did the shift happen?
In that particular situation.
In that particular situation.
Yeah, because in that particular situation, that would be like a different kind of healing. Because it was, I really needed a healing. That literally was like 8 years in. Like I vacillated. When I had that shift, it didn't vacillate anymore. I did not care if I was 99 years old. I knew I would get pregnant. I knew that. I had no doubt. I never cried another tear. I never whined another whine. Nothing. I knew that I knew because my heart had shifted. And what had shifted my heart was my perspective. You see, a willful decision. I willed my heart to change because I understood something different. I understood that envy and jealousy hinders my faith. It doesn't help it. And if I can't celebrate you in your time of celebration, then that is showing me that I don't see you really as my family in Christ. I don't see you as my sister for real, because I think you're taking something from me. Well, how can abundance come to a negative mind? It can't. So, no.
Shift of perspective, shift of mindset.
So I was like, shoot, I need to live in the abundant life. I do not want no negative in my nothing. I don't want no negative. So I began to say, practice abundance. And abundance is being thankful. It's finding the good.
Finding the good.
Yeah. So every morning I get to it, I say, Lord, show me how it gets better.
Yeah.
Show me how it gets better.
And he does it. Doesn't he do it?
Yeah, something bad happened right now. I say, show me how it gets better in this. Show me. I have to, yeah.
When did you find your calling? You grew up in Rastafari, in a Catholic.
Well, she was household. Catholic, Chinese. So I would say Rastafari and Catholic. I mean, Chinese were predominant. Then I went to Hillel Academy for the most of my elementary. I went to Ligani Prep and Jamaica Basic School. I don't know about Jamaica Basic School. That's a real pass. But I went to Hillel, so that's of course a Jewish school, right? Then I went to Queens, which is Anglican. So I was very confused.
To say the least.
Yeah, to say the least. But I think when I ran away from home and I got born again in a Christian church, about 2 years after that, I went to a Christian camp. I was 15, about 15 at the time. And when I went to the Christian camp, my hands got really hot. And they still get hot now, but they got really, really hot. And I went to the counselor and I said, my hands are like abnormally hot. And she said, well, maybe God's calling you to pray an intercession or something. I said, okay, I can pray. And I didn't really think about it. But then at that same camp, I began to have visions of me speaking in front of crowds everywhere. And I had been on stage with my dad before several times, so the crowds wasn't unfamiliar to me. But this time I was like telling people about God, and I was like, oh, wow, that's cool. I can tell people about God. I like him, he's unconditional. I mean, he gonna love you where you are. He accepts you. So I was cool with it. And so I just knew that's all I wanted to do. And I didn't want to do nothing else. So from that point, I just did. And I still do it. So even if I open a business today or not, it still has, the end game is still, how can I expose you to the unconditional God I know? That is my life mission, and I think I don't care where you come from, what you do, because I know what it feels like to be judged. And opposite ends. Well, you're light skinned, so you're privileged. Okay, I live in Texas. Okay, so I'm white passing, whichever way you want to do. So I have racism. I got to deal with Texas. You know, you're not black enough, you're white enough, whatever. You have social stuff here in Jamaica that you deal with. You know, well, you're here straight, so you think you did. I didn't think I was nothing. When I was hungry and didn't have no lights and no water, you think my last name was helping me? When I'm eating ball crackers 3 days straight? No. When I have to go and steal food from the grocery store, you think that was helping me? That wasn't helping me. My last name. Oh, you're Tommy Cowan's daughter, but I'm stealing from Woolworth. Absolutely, but I sure did. I cleared my debt. I went 2 years ago and tried to pay it back. But I'm just saying, you never know somebody's story because you look at their presentation.
Yes.
You look at the presentation and you think they don't know.
Yeah. Pastor Sara, when you go back to the Woolworth, I'm paying the people that back. What she say? What them say?
Okay, so when I went back to Woolworth a couple of years ago, not too long ago actually, I went and I asked for the manager. And I said, I want to let you know that when I was a little girl, I used to steal from here banana chips and Highgate chocolate all the time, tamarind balls, because I was hungry and I knew I may not have dinner when I get home, so I used to steal all the time. And I wanted to come back and clear my debts. And so here is $200 US, or I think I gave her $200 US for my bill. I don't know what it was at the time, but it was a lot. So she just was like, wow, she didn't know how to respond because of course she was not the manager, you know, how many of odd years ago. And then
how much does that, how many times does that happen?
Right.
You know?
And so I said to her, so she's like, I don't know what to do with it. I said, I don't know what to do with it either. So what you're going to do and what I'm going to do, but I have cleared my debts. And I said, it's always been on my mind to come back. And I didn't know that Woolworth still existed because every time I would go into Plaza, it was not where it was when I grew up. It's actually hidden now in a, you know, kind of in a more between place. So I didn't even know it was still here. And so when I found it was there, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to go clear my bill. And so it was just, I think she started telling other people in the store, this girl came and gave us this money, and I just was like happy to be able to do it because I just looked at, I was living a different life in that space. I had the abundance to do it. But there was a time I didn't have the abundance. And even though I didn't get caught, and maybe even people saw me, I knew, and they just didn't do it. I don't know. But even though it's not necessarily was on my conscience or not, I was just able to look at the transition between being in a space where you didn't have enough and now being in a space where you had an abundance that you could actually come back. It's like you have to bless somebody, pay for somebody's groceries. It didn't matter to me. However you wanted to allocate that $200, the next person's pay for their thing. It don't matter, but I wanted to give it back to clear that. So it was kind of interesting. They laughed. They were we took pictures and everything. It was like, it was a thing, but we had a good time.
Wow.
Yeah.
What is the most difficult thing about being a Christian counselor in today's world?
Being linear, meaning people want to hold you hostage to what they believe you should be. And in Christian counseling, you have to understand that there are people that are going to be struggling in their faith. There are people that are going to be struggling with their identity. And that's something we don't want to talk about and touch in the church. We don't want to talk about sexual assault and abuse for boys and girls. Right? We want girls to tolerate it and be part of their life and boys to be ashamed of it. Well, you as a Christian counselor, you was like, well, if you're a Christian counselor, you can't talk to, you can't deal with that. You must send them to hell or tell them this. No, that is not your job. I think is not given the space to reach people in unconventional ways. And sometimes those ways are not necessarily spiritual in nature, but they're natural, practical things. And sometimes I find that our Christianity may lack practicality sometimes. And so we're just like, hey, listen, just pray about it. You know, here's 2 scriptures and a song. Okay, woo. All right, well, no, my lights are due. And what you want me to do with my light money? You want me to come up here? Okay, wow, we won't go there. We remember, no, I'm a person. I've been in those positions. I've been in the front row. I've been in the back row. I've been on the podium. I've been in the pulpit. And then we have to remember to be practical and that God is a good father. He's a good father. No father wants to see you struggle. No father wants to see you suffer. But maybe God sent it into you to teach you a lesson. You won't do that to your kid? And God calls us wicked in compared to him. So I'm going to just set my kid up to fail. just to teach him a lesson. What kind of mentality is that? So if you wouldn't even do it, why do you think God is just sitting on there waiting for you to fail so you can learn some big divine lesson? You know, so I think that hardest thing is just not being given the space to diversify your efforts and consult with other people that are different from you. And methodology may be different from you. Doesn't mean you change your faith or your belief system. It means that sometimes you have to change your bait and the way that you're going to create healing in somebody's life.
How do you create balance being a counselor, a pastor, your family, with children, with just the everyday norm, society, social media?
There's no balance. There's no such thing as balance. If you think about balance, that means everything is proportioned equally. Well, if I'm going to be balanced and I can't work 8 hours and then don't pray to God for 8 hours, then go pray to there's no balance. There's priorities. And something is going to suffer every day. So today, you know, I'm not at home with my children. I'm here. So they don't get my presence today. So it's what, out of balance? No, it's a priority. They are not necessarily any less loved. They're not necessarily less cared for. But today, what I'm having to pursue in my purpose took precedence over something else in their life today. Tomorrow, my purpose may take a little bit backseat to them. So I think, you know, to get this idea of balance is to trap yourself and keep yourself in its hamster wheel versus prioritizing your life, determining what needs to go into what space. Sometimes you slow down, sometimes you draw back, reevaluate. You know, not every year, don't just New Year's resolutions. Evaluate every month. Is this what I want to do? Is it still in line with purpose? Do I feel this is really going where it needs to go? And be okay letting it go. Be okay going, I changed my mind.
People struggle with that.
Not changing my mind. Because they're afraid to fail because they don't want people to laugh at them. But again, I said, persecution is only effective if you need the approval of those persecuting you.
Outside of approval. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Are you chasing your purpose, or have you found your purpose?
No, my purpose said a long time. My purpose is to share the unconditional love of God. Now, but I do it in different genres, and I give myself the permission to shift and change. Like this weekend, we released Build Now. Our track, we released it on radio. It's on Spotify. It's on. I don't sing at all. Okay, I don't sing, but that's one way that I get the love of God out. And I went to my dad and said, hey, I want an album like my siblings and stuff, so I can't have an album. And obviously, because I can't sing, would be the thing. And I said, no, I can have an album. I can talk. So we have a talk album.
Oh, I love that.
So we have a fusion. That's what we call it, a talk fusion album. So we have 10 tracks, and we released one on Friday called Build Now. And it's a faith charge track. We have a dub mix to it. Even ran it by one of my dub DJs named Gabrielle Davis, and she was like, "Sir, I would put this in my mix. Yeah, I want it in the club. Because I used to be in the club. Okay, so I understand. I want it in the club.
I love that.
I want to be mixing that up in there. Be like, okay, how can that song? How that thing that hit me different? It hit you different because it is different. So that's one way I do it. So I'm always in purpose. I don't stress over it. Here's how I look at it. If you had a 2-year-old in this room right now, you would leave this 2-year-old alone, right? When that 2-year-old begins to touch that plug over there, all of a sudden, supernaturally, you'll go over there and don't touch that. But you'd give them freedom. As long as they're not doing nothing to destroy themselves, you don't really care. Why we think and waiting for God to tell us when we can just have charge of the room? If we go to the plug, he go, not for you. Back up.
He'll let you know.
What we're trying is this one the plug? Is this the plug? Is this one? Lacking confidence before God, but we can come boldly before the throne of grace. Boldly before the throne of grace. Boldly come because you trust that he will tell you instead of he's going to back off. So we have that new release, and I'm on social media, and I preach all the time on social media, and I share on social media. And things like that. I write books. I'm now doing real estate, getting ready to take my license for real estate because what? I need to be rich.
It's the for me.
Yeah, the earth.
It's the for me. Do you think as women of God that unrealistic expectations are placed on us in society?
Yeah, because here's the thing. You don't have to dominate, to be dominating to have dominion, but you have to have a dominion. It is your calling. It is your right to have dominion. But it is easier to dim the brilliance of somebody you're intimidated by. versus to appreciate them. So, I mean, for me, I'm going into it, say, I want to be the richest woman in my city. Because the richest person gets to say. I will get to impact laws. I get to give scholarships. I can give houses away. How can I live a big dream with a small pocket? No. So I need to make them. It's not a want. I need to make this money so I can do the things that are in my heart to do. I want to build a school in Trenchtown. What I'm going to do, abracadabra, abracazoo, come and help me build it with you. That's not going to work. I'm going to need to work and work this dream. And that's going to require money. So I'm not ashamed of money. I ain't afraid of money,
no, we're not afraid and
no,
ashamed of
because
money,
you need to know why you want it. Money don't go to desperate people, but it goes to determined people with purpose and a direction.
As we talk about abundance and more, you're putting on an album.
Yes.
Build Now. Where can our persons find you? Our followers find you?
Well, you can find me on Instagram at I am Sara Co. As IAMSARACO. There are a lot of fake ones out of me because they fraud me all the time. So don't follow that one with the little hyphens and stars and hearts. It's not me. It's I am Sara Co. And you can find me on Facebook at Pastor Sara Conner. You can find me at pastorsara.com, and then you can find everything about me there. So pastorsara.com, and then you can click on my social media and find me there. Build Now is the first track on our album, and it is everywhere: Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, Apple, anywhere that your music is played title, you can definitely find it there. And so I'm looking forward to just releasing more of that kind of encouraging word.
Yes.
And continue to build people, because yes, my life is about serving and being in service to others. No matter what it is, I have to end up serving others and telling them about the unconditional love of God. Yeah.
On that note, Pastor Sara, as we close out Chasing Purpose, I'm going to wish everyone love, light, and purpose. I'm going to ask Pastor Sara to take us out with a message.
All right, so I would say that, there's a story in the Bible, as you probably know it, where Moses and God had this encounter, and he was at the burning bush, and we know about the burning bush, and so he told him, hey, he was out in the mountains, he said, hey, take the stick and throw it on the floor. When he took the stick and threw it on the floor, and then it turned into a snake. And then he told him, pick up the snake by the tail. And Moses was like, yo, I don't want to pick up no snake. And when he picked up the snake, eventually it turned back into the rod. That's Exodus 4. The last verse says, the staff of Moses became the rod of God. After that, you find everywhere that rod was used, whether it was used to strike the rock, whether it was used to be held to the skies and hail came, whether it was used to be held over the ocean and the ocean parted, whether it was in the fight of the Amalekites and victory came. No matter where the rod went, God's presence went. I would encourage you not to let an environment change you, but remember you are the environment changing agent. To remember that at any time you can rebrand, you can restart, and you can redo. You can always do that and give yourself the chance to see God work through you. The power is with the stick. It wasn't in the environment. It wasn't in the ocean. It was in the stick, because the stick was submitted to God. So whatever you're doing, it's not perfect. Even though Moses wasn't perfect striking that rock, that water came out. So I just want to encourage you that it doesn't matter how old or young you are, you have the opportunity to rebrand at any time and go forward in God. Do not stay stuck. Take that step forward. Make a phone call, go onto Google, research something, whatever you need. Do a small action every single day that moves you forward, and you'll begin to have propelling, accelerating force. And before you know it, you're going to start achieving what you want, because the only difference between being successful and not being successful is really being consistent at one or the other. Both of them require consistency. So be consistent in the things that God has put in your heart. Amen?
Amen.
See you on the gram. I am the Insta Activator 411. So make sure that you come and see me over there, and I'll be playing around.
Yes. And with that, again, wishing you love, light, and purpose.